Well, I thought I'd take a minute to tell you another story. This had happened several years ago down to the church, and we just got afraid that Preacher Bledsoe was getting too old to baptize to the river. And so at the church business meeting, somebody brought up we ought to put in one of them baptism pools. And so somebody made the motion, somebody seconded it, and then the whole church agreed, so then we went about doing it. And so we got somebody come, they installed it, and then they got one of them little Johnson girls to come and paint one of them murals behind it, and it was the prettiest thing. I'm a telling you what, it looked just like a river, and that's where we was used to baptizing at, and so it was the prettiest thing, and Brother Bledsoe, he was just so pleased, he was just tickled to death, and just could not wait to get wet in that baptism pool water. And so that next Sunday, he preached the prettiest sermon. I'm a telling you. I'm a telling you. It was the prettiest sermon. And it was about Jesus and the baptizing and a dove. And I tell you what, he's trying to draw folks in because he's wanting to use that baptism pool, and it worked. There was some come forth, and then there was one that had been baptized before, but she thought she'd get baptized again. It was Loulie Beth, and she was up in the years, and she figured that a little refresher couldn't hurt, and so then after the service was over and everything, we had the baptizing scheduled for the next week, and so then that next Sunday we had service just as usual, but we had the biggest crowd. That was a big event to the church, the first baptizing in that baptistry and everything, and so after the service was over, Brother Bledsoe, he called for the baptizees to come up to the front, and they kindly made a line there. That way everybody could get a good look at them. And I tell you what, one of them Feltner boys was first and up there. He was about 13 years old, and them Feltner boys is great big old boys. Great big old fellers, and he made his way up there just a grinning, and I tell you what, he stood there right beside the preacher, and I tell you what, that boy wasn't one iota short of 7 foot tall. And Brother Bledsoe was a very short man, and he stood there, and I tell you what, it looked like we had David and Goliath right there in the sanctuary. And I'm telling you what, if our church had a basketball team, he'd have been a star player. I'm telling you, or a football team, he'd have been the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? He was a big old boy, and but anyway, and then my cousin Jeanette was standing next to him, and then there's another little boy, and I cannot remember what his name was. He didn't stick around too long, and then Loulie Beth, of course. And so that Feltner boy was the first to go, and so he made his way back to the room there beside the baptistry, and the preacher made his way over to the other side, and so that boy, he beat the preacher up the steps and everything because the preacher was sold, but anyway, so he stood there at the top of the steps, and finally the preacher made his way down to the water. And Lord, he just looked so tickled to get in there, and then he motioned for that boy to come on, and he was excited. He's a grinning from year to year, and he started his way down them steps, and he missed a second, and if he didn't fall clean right in on top of Brother Bledsoe, I ain't sitting here. And I tell you what, I thought to my soul, I thought, oh Lord. I thought Brother Bledsoe was done went to meet you, Lord. I just don't think Brother Bledsoe was going to get out of that baptism pool alive. But he did. He did. He made his way back out of that water, and Brother Bledsoe, he had a comb over, and whenever he came out, it flipped over the wrong way. And there he stood, and he looked just like he'd flipped his lid. And I could not help but laugh. I was holding my face, I was holding my mouth, my nose, I was shaking all over, just trying to keep from bellowing out loud laughing. But finally I regained my composure, and I guess everybody else did too. And Brother Bledsoe regained his, and he put his hair back where it belonged, and then he proceeded to baptize that boy. And I thought, Lord have mercy, how's they ever going to get him back up out of that water? But he did. He didn't get him all the way in it. Was the thing. I don't think that boy ever got his hair wet. He might have not got completely washed in the water, but hopefully he was washed in the blood, and that's all that matters. And Brother Bledsoe done the best he could, and that's all God requires. But anyway, so then after that, that boy got out, and then it's my cousin Jeanette's time, and so she comes down them steps and just makes her way down, just graceful, and to the water, and meets the preacher and everything, and it's just a pretty baptism, just traditional, nothing out of the way, no flying acrobats falling on top of the preacher or nothing, and so I thought that's pretty successful. And so then Jeanette had got out and went. I don't guess she'd ever even got dried off till one of the elderly church members back in the sanctuary started looking peaked. He looked mighty peaked. And I'm telling you, and so then some of the women of the church, they started gathering around him, asked him if he's all right and everything. And he wouldn't say no word. Not a word. And, we started getting bad word. And so then women, they started fanning and a praying. And a praying and a fanning. That's all they knew to do. And somebody, had the good sense to call 911. Everybody's got their cell phones these days. And so they just prayed and fanned till the ambulance came there and got him and took him away. And everybody thought he'd had a stroke and thought he might have died right there. But he didn't. It was just his. As it turned out, it's just his sugar, and he was all right, and we just praise the Lord for that. But anyway, so then after that other little boy got baptized, and he had just a good traditional baptism too, nothing out of the way, and then it's Loulie Beth's turn, and so Loulie Beth was making her way up through there, and then all of a sudden, it's just like something out of a movie. I'm telling you, just row by row, I started to seeing people turning around, and they's looking behind them. And they's oohing and ahhing and a teeing and hawing and a cackling and saying, "Oh my Lord," and things like that. And you ain't never heard nothing like a bunch of Baptist women are going on. And I tell you what. I was a-dying. I was sitting right up there to that front because, I wanted to see my cousin get baptized, and I was a-dying because I just wanted to see what was going on so bad. I'm a people watcher. I love to watch people, and it was killing me not knowing what's happening. But finally, I got a glimpse of it, and coming down that aisle was Anna Mae Fletcher. And she was naked as a jaybird, I'm telling you what, and just grinning from ear to ear. I'll never forget it. Which now Anna Mae was only about 2 or 2.5 years old, and Lord, her mommy come out running after her, and she took off. It was the funniest sight. I'm telling you what. But her mommy said that Anna Mae had thought that was just a big bathtub, and that she loved to take a bath. But anyway, so then it was Loulie Beth's time to get baptized, so she just turned to the church and she said, "Church, I just don't feel up to being baptized today." She said, "I'm just gonna have to wait till another time." And then. Later, I heard from one of the other church ladies. They said that Loulie Beth had just got to thinking she just didn't know if the Lord was in that baptism pool or not, with all that commotion that we'd had, and that she decided that she might ought to just stick with what she already had. But I tell you what, at that time I wouldn't have gone near as often as I should have to the church, but after that I went every Sunday. I did not want to miss. I did not know what was going to happen, and I tell you what, I felt closer to the Lord after that, because I knew that He had a sense of humor, And I bet some of you's out there saying, yeah, he's got a sense of humor. He made you, didn't he? Look at you. But yeah, but I tell you what, and after that, I thought, me and God, we're kind of in the same business, entertainment.